Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm the Metal Junkie, and it's time to look at the worst songs by Manowar. We're going through each album. I'm going to take my pick for the worst song or my least favorite track. And yeah, we'll go from their first album all the way to their last album. I've done a video already on the best songs from Manowar if you want to go check that out. I'd love to hear what is your worst songs from this band on each album down in the comment section. We'll have a great discussion. Like the video, subscribe to the channel so don't miss out on any future content. And of course, this is just my opinion, guys, so don't hate me. But yeah, let's get into it. So kicking things off with battle hymns, I think the worst song on there has to be William's Tale. I friggin' love the debut, and this is kind of the only kind of filler track on here. It's one of many bass solos that we get throughout Manowar's discography. This one's one of the better ones, though. It's quick. It's under 2 minutes long. It sounds like a horse racing music, like dun 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 dun. That's what it reminds me of. It's actually based off of a friggin' what is it based off? A March of the Swiss Soldiers from the overture of William Tell opera. If that means anything to you, it means nothing to me. So it's based off like an old musical piece. It's okay. Like I said, it's quick. It kind of flies by, and it doesn't really hurt the flow of the album too much. Moving on to Into Glory Ride. Tough choice here. It's not my favorite album, but I don't think there's any real bad tracks on here. I had to go with Gates of Valhalla. I had to choose one, and that one just takes a while to get going. It's like 2 minutes of this slower pace until it kicks in. And when it does kick in, it's awesome, but then it kind of repeats the same thing all the way to the end of the song. Of course, with solos and stuff on top. Eric Adams is awesome on here. Love the vocal delivery. That's not the problem. But the rest of the song is just okay to me. Moving on to Hail to England. An otherwise perfect album, but it's kind of ruined by the song Black Arrows, which is another one of these bass solos, but this time it's just mostly noise. He's doing a lot of fast picking and tapping and stuff, but it's not very coherent. Yeah, I'm not a fan of this one. It kind of really does ruin the flow of this album, if you ask me. It would have been much better to remove this. Now with Sign of the Hammer, I'm going with Thunderpick. Again, another bass solo, but not as unlistenable as Black Arrows. It's not as hard in the ears. It's an easy pick again because this album is amazing. So it still lacks any form of direction and is there for nothing more than filler on the album, if you ask me. Moving on to Fighting the World, I'm going with Drums of Doom. Easy pick here, but it's not all that bad. It's only like a minute and some long. And you could say this is the intro to Holy War. But they made it an individual track, so I am going to have to pick on it this time around. Half of it is like horses riding in, and the other half is kind of these like warrior style drums. It's okay. It's only a little over a minute long, so it's not hurting anybody. On to Kings of Metal, and the easy pick here would be The Warrior's Prayer. But that's not a real song, so I don't really want to choose that. It's more of a narration. It's a grandfather telling his grandkid a story. An epic story, I'll give it that, about the Kings of Metal. But yeah, it's not a song, so I'm not going to pick it as the worst song. It's a narration. So we're going to go with a backup answer here. I have to choose The Crown and the Ring, The Lament of Kings. I know it's a hot take. I know you guys love this song, but it's just not for me. Again, Eric Adams really shines on this track, but everything else I'm not a fan of. The gospel style singing in the background, the organs, all that stuff is just not for me personally. Up next with The Triumph of Steel, y'all are gonna hate me, but I'm going with Master of the Wind. Again, Eric, your vocals are so good on these tracks I don't like. He really shines once again, showing off his vocal chops. But the song, it literally sounds like something out of a Disney cartoon, a Disney animation movie or something, which is fine, but not what I'm looking for when I'm listening to a heavy metal album, you know? It does show the variation that this band has and the talent they have, especially the vocalist, but it's, again, just not my cup of tea. I don't care for this type of music. Up next with Louder Than Hell, I'm going with the song Courage, and it's not all that bad. again, it's another album where the tracks don't really dip real low in quality. They don't reach super highs neither, but that's okay. It's a perfectly decent album, very solid. But Courage, it's again, it's like a slower track for the most part, but halfway through the band does kick it up a notch, and it just brings the song to the next level for me. So decent lyrics too in here, so yeah, it's just unfortunate this one had to be the worst pick for me. Up next with Warriors of the World. A couple choices I could have chose here, but I ultimately went with the March. Valhalla could have been another pick, but that's a lot shorter, so it's just easier to listen to and get through. I chose the March. It's way too long for this type of track. It's kind of boring in the first half. In the second half, the symphonic elements really pick it up, make it more interesting. And this is kind of like, again, the intro to Warriors of the World United, but again, they made it an individual track, so I'm going to base it off that. So yeah, I feel like it's way too long to be this type of filler track on here. On to Gods of War. Now this is honestly the hardest pick. Again, not my favorite album, but we got so many tracks on here and they're not meant to be taken individually. It's a concept album. They only work as one basically for the most part. So this is real tough to try to rip a section out of this album and say this part's the worst. But I ultimately went with Overture to the Hymn of the Immortal Warriors. I think it's the opening track to this album. Again, it's an instrumental, it's symphonic, lots of orchestras and stuff, but it's like over 6 minutes long, and you got 15 tracks, 16 if you include the bonus track on here. So the album's already over an hour long, and your intro is going to be this long. It's just too much for me. But again, it's kind of unfair to try to poke holes in this album. It works best as a whole, is what I'm saying. So yeah, tough choice. And lastly, we got The Lord of Steel. I'm going with Blacklist. Now, funny enough, when I first heard this, I actually loved it. I thought it was one of the better songs on the album. It really stuck out to me. But yeah, it got old real fast. It gets kind of repetitive, kind of boring real quick. The bass sound on here sounded unique at first, but then now it's just coming off as annoying. So I think Blacklist is easily now the worst song on this record. So there you have it, guys. There's my worst songs from every Manowar album. Hope you enjoyed it. Obviously, my list is not the right list. My picks will probably not line up with all of yours, but I would love to see what's your worst songs by them, what's your least favorite from each album down below, especially if you're a huge fan, because I'm fairly new to this band. In the last year or two, I've been listening to them, so we're definitely probably not going to line up. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy videos like this. There's more content coming in the future. And that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, thanks for watching.